Mr. Nolip, how's the technology looking? Thank you. All right, thank you. And do we have Youth Counselor Nog on the line? Okay. She texted me saying she was having trouble getting on at 6:30, and I explained that we had an executive session and would be starting at 7, so maybe we'll give it just a moment. Okay, thank you. All right, I will call the Tigard City Council Local Contract Review Board meeting to order. Deputy Recorder Raimundo, please call roll.
Mayor Snyder.
Here.
Youth Counselor Nog.
She waved.
Hi, I'm sorry. My computer has been really laggy today, so hoping it works out.
Thank you. Counselor Goodhouse.
Here.
Counselor Newton.
Here.
Council President Lube.
Here.
Counselor Shaw. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And with that, let's, Mike, would you please put up the flag, and I'll ask everyone to mute themselves and participate in the Pledge of Allegiance with their microphones muted. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Let's move on to Councilor staff. Any non-agenda items?
Nothing from us, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we'll move on to proclamations and recognition. I think we have a proclamation to proclaim July Park and Recreation Month. Mr. Gruen, do you have a report?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Very nice to see you all this evening. As we approach July, July is recognized as Parks and Recreation Month. Every year, the National Recreation and Parks Association seeks to engage with local communities to recognize the contribution of our teammates in Parks and Recreation. We've discovered, or this year, I should say, the theme for Parks and Recreation in 2022 is Rise Up for Parks and Recreation. National Recreation Parks Association and the many thousand members of NRPA, including the City of Tigard Parks and Recreation, want to bring attention to how important it is for all of us to rise up and support Parks and Recreation, because every day Parks and Recreation professionals rise up for their communities in service of equity, access, climate readiness, and the overall health and well-being of our community members. We've discovered through the pandemic just how critical and essential Parks and Recreation services and programs are, and how much they're needed in our communities to promote physical and mental health. We work to ensure that all people have access to benefits of local parks and recreation and the offerings of our recreation programs, while also helping to protect open space, connecting children to nature, and connecting people and communities through volunteerism in restoring our parks and natural areas. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I would recommend and urge the City Council to adopt July as Parks and Recreation Month. And in doing so, recognize that throughout the month of July, our great recreation team led by Caitlin Leaf will be leading and hosting a series of pop-up events throughout the month. Our first one is July 6th at East Butte Heritage Park. And members of the community can go to our recreation website and find all the different pop-up events. The one at July 6th will feature the Tigard Tualatin School District Summer Lunch Program, the Tigard Public Library and Story Time for the kids, as well as some great music from our partners of Oregon Music Academy. So Council or Mr. Mayor, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I would recommend Council adopt July as Parks and Recreation Month.
Thank you very much for the report out and recommendation. Is there a motion to approve the proclamation of July as Park and Recreation Month? Council President Luke?
I move to approve the proclamation.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second. I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, please conduct a roll call vote, starting with Youth Councilor Nog for an advisory vote.
Youth Councilor Nog,
Yes.
Mayor Snyder,
Yes.
Councilor Goodhouse,
Yes.
Councilor Newton,
Yes.
Council President Lube,
Yes.
Councilor Shaw. Thank you.
All right, the motion passes unanimously by those present. And we'll move on to item number 4 on the agenda, public comment. Anyone that wishes to call in and provide public comment may do so now by calling 503-966-4101, and those with general comments should call now to get in the queue. Let's see, we'll move to follow-up from previous public comment. Assistant City Manager Nyland, any follow-up?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. At last week's council meeting, we did receive 2 written comments and we had a caller. We had a community member contact us about park maintenance, specifically about a tree sprouting in green space next to a fence. I don't know why that makes me smile, but it does. Our green team will respond, assessing the state of the tree, and may do a swale review. We also had a community member comment and call about the cost of living adjustments, also known as COLA. The city is not able to discuss bargaining outside of the formal negotiation process. So the team did follow up with each constituent, acknowledging receipt, and we did provide additional information. Now, because the world seems quite heavy as of late, I thought it was a perfect time to provide a little lightness. So tonight's fun fact was inspired by last week's public comments and the update I just provided. What is a swale? Swales can be part of an area's natural landscaping, or they can be created to help ensure proper drainage. They minimize runoff or capture stormwater. They are generally shallow ditches that have gently sloping sides. Swales rely on gravity to move water and are designed to direct water where they want it to go. Tomato, tomato, or in this case, COLA. A few years ago, a survey of 350,000 Americans was used to map out terms and pronunciations unique to certain areas, or the language of regionalism. On the West Coast and in New England, people are more likely to say soda, whereas in some parts of the South, people say Coke or cola to refer to any type of carbonated beverage. You're likely to hear pop in states like North Dakota and Minnesota. I personally am a soda girl, but I have a fond appreciation of cola as well. So, and that is my report for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to an update from Chief McAlpine on the police strategic dashboard. Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the May dashboard. We're a little late into this month, but happy to still be in front of you. To piggyback off Assistant Chief Nyland on the term swell, I'm going to go swell. We have a swell or an increase in crime, both in property and persons. You may not have seen the dashboard. You didn't get it till later today, so my apologies. But we are still trending. We're 5 months into 2022, and we have a 55% increase in property crimes. We're seeing still stolen vehicles, shoplifting that sometimes turn to robbery due to their resistance or the fact that they're armed, assaults on loss prevention, and assaults on officers, ramming their vehicles, getting away, or eluding at a high rate of speed where we won't pursue in an effort to get away from us, and endangering the public at the same time. We've also seen a 30% increase in persons crime. And I know all of you have been informed or well aware of some of our more high profile events. We've had 2 instances where we've informed the public of what a replica gun looks like, how dangerous they can be, and at the hands of our youth. This was both in a shoplift that when loss prevention went to contact them, displayed a replica gun. And again, you cannot tell that they're replica until after you've actually taken possession of it. And then another one who was firing, and it sounded like shots firing when we responded to it, and was shooting that weapon at garbage cans and in the area. Everybody was contacted, everybody was arrested. And then last, on the Cook Park, just before our balloon festival, we did have a youth on youth stabbing. These are known individuals with some history, but nonetheless significant injuries to one youth, and again the other was arrested. And of course, even though it is in the month of June, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge our homicide this weekend at Just Compassion outside. Again, client on client, that is still an active investigation with not much details that to go out today, but I did go to Just Compassion just to check on the staff. You can imagine they're traumatized. They're getting the resources that they need. And right now, community support for the clients and for the staff is highly encouraged as we help them navigate this. And again, the individual responsible for this has been arrested. So I hate to say encouraging, but when these crimes are happening, we have about a 36% increase in arrests. So those who we can hold accountable, we are, at least to get them through the court proceedings. And 100% increase on felony arrests. Our calls for service continue to climb. We're at a 7%, or about 600 more calls for service than last year. And the good news is we are now coming out of the pandemic. So we've sent 3 officers to our 40-hour advanced crisis intervention de-escalation training. So that's back on track. And we've had nothing but good comments from even experienced officers going through that training, because you can always have a takeaway about the things that they learn. I think you also recall that we did make an arrest on that fatal pedestrian hit and run. And then going back now to a little bit more lighter load is we have hired our community engagement coordinator, Maddie Bauer. She was able to attend 2 days with our public information officer, Kelsey Anderson, down at Balloon Fest. Perhaps some of you got a chance to meet Maddie. The things we're asking her to focus, besides just getting to know our community, is to work on National Night Out. So she's already done some outreach. We had some people sign up at the Balloon Fest. And then we'll do that in August. Then we'll have a shred event in September that we think will be highly popular. And then I've asked her to work with our detectives on some catalytic converter proactive things. We've attended a Carfax training that I also attended. We're looking at some ID tags that we might be able to have an event and help some of our community members. So look for something in another probably 2 months in that regards. And with that, that's a handful, but happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Chief. Always informative. I think it's important we know what's going on in the community, and our community knows as well. Even when it's not pleasant, it's still the truth, and we need to talk about it. So, Councillor Newton.
Yes, thank you for that very thorough report, Chief. Always really helpful to know what's going on. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the Chief and Commander McDonald in particular for the great work they did as part of our Public Safety Advisory Board team. We had our last official meeting last night. It was it was an amazing process for all of us that participated, and everybody was the response from the community to the transparency and the cooperation and the collegial nature of our department with the board. It was 100%. So I want to encourage members of the community, if they haven't had a chance to watch those meetings, to take a look. And I just again want to publicly commend the Chief and Commander McDonald and all of your staff that did training and presentations for the amazing professional and just open way you approached it. We are going to have a presentation on August 9th. All the recommendations will be coming forward. But again, Chief, thank you so much. And thanks again to Commander McDonald and all of the members of the department that participated. Thanks.
Councillor Goodhouse.
Thank you. Chief, I was just going to ask, with kind of the rise in crime and with some of the more homicides and so forth, what can you say to citizens to kind of make them feel safer? I know that Tigard's always been a community where you can leave your doors unlocked and kind of feel safe. And now with more and more, where maybe something where a couple years go by and we maybe have one homicide. What do you say really for people to really help them feel safe, or kind of get an idea, what's going on, kind of what led to these, and have people just have a sense of their community?
Councillor Goodhouse, those are great questions. And there's a couple things. On the property crime, what I would ask the community is to be diligent. Where we have maybe in the past had the luxury of maybe not having our cars locked, or warming up our vehicles, or just enjoying the ability to be not so hyper vigilant, I would say please be vigilant, be intentional where you park your cars, where you put your personal property, don't leave them in the car. Eyes and ears are always important. That'll be a great time for us to do National Night Out. I hope that communities look to gather so that we can probably share some information, some tips. When it comes to the homicides in particular, as I've reported out, most of them are either not from our area and taking an opportunity, or they're known to each other, known persons preying on each other. And so from a community member, there's not a danger to the public per se of somebody who is just randomly preying on people that they come across. These have all been known people, with the exception of the pedestrian fatality. So I think just staying in tune and being aware of your surroundings. We still have a wonderful city. It's still very safe. Our increase is being seen throughout Washington County and throughout Oregon, so this is not unusual. But again, I think just being hypervigilant, being aware of your surroundings. If things are make you uneasy and they're suspicious, please call the non-emergency line. We'll just ask questions, our dispatchers will, to find out what is so suspicious or concerning about somebody's behavior. Mostly that is just so we aren't profiling people unintentionally, but we're still out there. We're still willing to go to those calls and our motto this last month has been be seen. And hopefully people felt that way through Balloon Fest. I know I had a chance to walk a couple of days down there. Even we had time to go to an 8-year-old's birthday party while we're still doing some of those more high profile crimes as well. So we still have a great community, but we need each other to not be complacent and to have our eyes and ears open. And I hope that answers your question.
All right, any other comments or questions? All right, thank you, Chief. We'll move on to Tigard Area Chamber of Commerce update. Jessica Love, are you with us?
I am. Good evening, Council. It's nice to see you all today. We had our Leadership Tigard class graduate on June 21st. And so on the final day of the class, they heard about public safety and our judicial system. They heard from Washington County DA, the Tigard Municipal Court, the Mental Health Response Team, Tigard Police Department, and the Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue. There we go. Now I can say it. And so it was a great day, and then we were very excited to be able to honor the class on June 21st with graduation. We had 17 graduate, and that makes our total of 95 graduates from the Leadership Tigard class, so we're very excited. And we will be launching the class of 2023 applications this coming month in July. So if anybody's interested, please reach out. We'd love to have more people participate in the program that will be starting in October. The Tigard Chamber annual meeting is coming up this Thursday, I'm mixing up my dates here. This Thursday, June 30th, there we go. And it is at 7:30 at the Broadway Rose Theater. And we are going to be giving a look back at what we've done over the last year and then a look forward. There's a lot that's going to be happening within the chamber. We have a new CEO, almost all new staff. And so the board is going into strategic planning. So we're excited to look at what the future of the chamber looks like. We have our Tigard Restaurant Month that is coming to a close on the 30th as well. We had 23 participating restaurants, and we already have seen an increase in participation from the community over last year. So we're excited to see that continue through for the rest of the month. And then our candidate endorsement committee is accepting endorsement requests for all open positions for the November elections. And if anybody is interested, the deadline is July 15th. And the information will be on our website. Again, we just did a refresh of our website that just launched on Monday. And so all they have to do is contact our candidate endorsement committee via email and let them know that they're interested. And we're encouraging everyone that may not have necessarily submitted yet or is even just thinking about it and haven't decided to reach out to us, because our process does end before the end of the deadline comes. And then like I mentioned, we have a new website, so we encourage you all to come and check it out. It's beautiful. And then we have networking every Thursday still. One day a month is virtual and the rest is in person. For the Tigard Farmers Market, we're in full swing of the season. We have 62 vendors, which is the highest that we've had in quite some time, so we're very excited. And we just found out that we received a $2,500 grant from the Tualatin Soil and Water Conservation District to provide Market Sprouts Kids Club participants dollars to use at the market. So then we're teaching our kids to go shop local at the farmers market. So that will be launching soon. And then the farm to table dinner is back again this year. It's going to be Friday, August 26th. So we've pushed it out a little bit, and it's going to be at the Fano Creek Farmhouse. And so we'd love to have everyone visit and participate in that. And then for the Tigard Downtown Alliance, we have a new business that opened up, Cervello, in downtown Tigard. The Tigard Street Fair is coming back on September 10th. The vendor applications will be opening next week. And then we would like to invite everyone to our monthly mixers that are taking place the third Wednesday of every month from 5 to 7, and it rotates different locations throughout downtown. And then just a reminder, downtown is open even with all the construction that's happening. So please come support our businesses. Any questions for me? I promise to get dates correct this time now.
Thank you, Jessica. Appreciate all the updates.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to written public comment. Deputy Recorder Raimundo, I think we had one written public comment from Mr. Good, and it was about his suggestion that around housing affordability, that there be various taxes placed on homes that are not going to be occupied by the owner, I think was the general gist of it. So were there any others that I missed? I don't think so.
No, that's all that we received by the deadline today.
Okay. Thank you. And Mr. Nollup, we're going to move on to phone-in public comment. Are there any callers in the queue?
Mr. Mayor, no callers in the queue at this time.
Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda is used for routine items, including minutes and approval of contracts or intergovernmental agreements. Information on each item is available on the city's website in the packet for this meeting. These items may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Council members may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action. Tonight, we have local contract review board action to approve water quality testing services, and then also local contract review board pavement management program, pavement rehabilitation overlay. I think those are the two items. I also want to share with the council that Councilor Shaw was not able to attend, but provided me with her thoughts on a number of things. I'm going to try to keep those high level. She provided some very detailed information, including how she might vote if she were present. I consulted with the city attorney, and I'm based on that discussion, I'm going to avoid sharing that information. To participate at that level in the meeting, you do need to be present in person, but I will do my best to provide her, at least some high-level narrative input on the items, as I've done in the past for council members in similar situations. So with that, she actually had some comment on the consent agenda. So I don't know if anyone else has a comment or a request related to the consent agenda, or otherwise I will share her feedback. So I think, and it sounds like there was some staff discussion as well. Mr. Rager perhaps could join, but it sounds like she was requesting that a particular part of 106th Avenue from Del Monte to Canterbury Lane needs to be addressed, but is not in the planned program. Mr. Rager, can you comment on that real quickly?
Sure, Mr. Mayor. I've also got Nicole George, our project manager from engineering, is on tonight. But in general, the councilor's comment there was I think a request from a community member to add a certain street to the list of streets for this year's PMP program. And I would, at this time, if Nicole is on, I would ask her to explain a little bit how we go through the process of prioritizing streets, and that can shed light on why this particular street was not included. Nicole, do you mind?
Thanks, Nicole, and sorry I was not trying to ignore you on the report out here. I was hoping to at least get a high level from Brian, but yes, please.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Nicole George. I'm in charge of the pavement maintenance program here at Tigard. And one thing that we do is we work with a subcontractor who, or a consultant, excuse me, to help us develop our 5-year plan. This last year we worked with GRI, and they do our Street Saver program, and they go through this analysis based off of our budget and really where our best dollars would fall. Unfortunately, that's usually with our larger arterials and collectors when it comes to specifically rehab, in the sense that you have to dig down, work on subgrade and pave back. And so our local streets, as you all know, are considered backlog streets when it comes to needing that rehab. So we try to hit a couple backlog streets each year. This year we're concentrating on, I think, 3 or 4 sections that we were able to hit. And so our next 5-year plan does start next year. 106 is considered a backlog street still within this 5-year plan. So it's all budget oriented. And we try to do the best we can with what we've got. And I know that's really hard for a lot of people to hear. But we really do have a great set of our street network, and we just try to do the best we can.
Is there any rationale from an objective standpoint, not from somebody complaining about it, but from an objective standpoint, that on reevaluation would make either of you or both of you change your, not necessarily your recommendation, but maybe a reevaluation of this? Or have you done that now and you're still confident that it's where it should be in the program, which is that it needs to be done? No one's acknowledging it doesn't, but that it's in its proper prioritization?
Yeah, I would agree with that. The backlog streets that we picked this year were specific because we were working with our utility groups. For instance, Alderbrook Circle, we knew that there were underlying issues with some of our storm and piping systems, and so they got in there and they've replaced those. So now we're able to hit that backlog street. We really try to address the underlying condition. I don't think there really is one for 106. It just falls within that same backlog group that we're trying to hit up as best we can.
And your description of working with the other utilities and things is, I mean, that to me is government working smarter and better by coordinating. So I understand that. Okay, with that follow-up and feedback from Councillor Shaw, I'm wondering if there's any further discussion or questions on the consent agenda or a motion for approval. Councillor Goodhouse.
Yeah, I had a quick question. Just as I know that when we try to do the backlog and where we're at, I was just wondering where we're at with our pavement index. I know usually we try to be above 80. Where are we with approving these projects? Where will we be at, and are we still around that number, above it, below it, and how does some of those ones behind it really affect us?
Right now we're about 78, 79. Every 2 years we hire some folks out of Salem, and they do their inspection of our roadways and do an update of our PCI, and that does fall this year. So I'll have a better understanding of where we really sit this fall.
Thank you.
That's the first time I've heard that we've fallen back below 80. So we're not keeping up, is what I'm getting out of that? Because we were in an 81, 82, 83, right? Maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Correct. So we are now introducing River Terrace and all those brand new roadways into our maintenance program. So we built that into our slurry program within the next 5 years. So that is part of the factor.
Oh, good.
Well, so those are being brought in. You're talking about streets that weren't just built and aren't brand new, but are brought in River Terrace. I guess I want to make sure I understand that. I would think when you interject a bunch of brand new stuff, your PCI would go up. What am I missing?
Yeah, some of those roadways are already 5, 6 years old.
Gotcha. Okay, Councillor Goodhouse.
Well, and Mayor kind of made my point was that I thought it was either a council or a city priority to always be 80 or above. So, when do we fall above that, and what do we, I guess, need to do to bring that back up? Because that was always our goal or focus, was to be at least 80 or higher and never fall below that. So I don't know where and when we fell below that, and it would be nice to have.
Yeah, as a reminder as to the why, that when it's above 80, that's the cheapest to maintain. Just for the community and other members of the council who maybe haven't been here for the beginning of some of that work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I developed, sorry. I just want to speak to the PCI. So this year is in between the previous 5-year plan and the new 5-year plan. Our new 5-year plan does have that PCI rating as our goal. We came up with a budget for each year, and that was adopted in this year's budget. So we do want to keep that PCI at 80 or above, and that's the program we're going to shoot for.
Thank you.
Councilor Goodhouse, anything further? Or is there a motion on the consent agenda? I'll ask again. Council President Loop?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Snyder,
Yes.
Councilor Goodhouse,
Yes.
Councilor Newton,
Yes.
Council President Loop,
Yes.
Councilor Shaw. Thank you.
All right, motion's adopted unanimously by those present. And we'll move on to item number 6, which is the item is listed as appointing Oishiki Nag to Youth City Councilor position effective 7/1/22. I'm presenting on this item, and I will just give a very quick background that we, despite a lot of effort, I would say on the city staff side and even on my pushing of the school district personnel and the MET and Westside Christian High School and everywhere there's high school students in the city that I could think of, we actively pushed and pursued trying to get youth city councilor applications. I will also point out that Youth Councilor Nag did not immediately apply. I think she also thought that it would be very appropriate for either members of the Tigard Youth Advisory Council or other members of our youth community to step up. And when they didn't, despite a lot of prodding and pushing, she was pretty enthusiastic actually about the potential of serving another 1-year term, and the enabling decisions that we made do and the criteria do allow someone to reapply if they're still going to be a high school student. And so that is what happened, just from a big picture perspective, since I know a lot of people had some questions about that. And I know Councilor Goodhouse, you wanted to specifically speak on this. So I'll certainly let you start. I know the conversation Councilor Goodhouse had is I think he thought it was on the consent agenda to begin with, so that's why there was discussion with me about that, but it is a separate business item. So Councilor Goodhouse?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start off saying that Youth Councilor Nag, you've been doing a great job and appreciate everything you've been doing for the last year. My one thought is, I guess I didn't realize that we didn't have any applicants. I have a lot of the youth that work at my place and high schoolers and chances to reach out to people. I see it as a great opportunity for youth to, for it to rotate and for someone else to have that experience, especially that experience to go to DC and have all that. And I know it was a great experience for Youth Councilor Nag, and I'd like to take a look at the opportunity of opening it back up again, maybe with a headline that we didn't, we had our, one applicant, which is our existing youth counselor, but maybe see if we can do a little bit more robust or relook out there. Because I love just to see that opportunity go to someone else. Each person that's come through has had a great experience and been a great insight to us.
Is there something different that you would plan to do this time that you didn't do in the 2.5 months that it was advertised before? Because I have a lot of trouble deciding that we're going to do this, 3 days before we're supposed to have someone in the role when it was open for 2.5 months. I just don't understand what you would do different now, but maybe you can explain what you would do different and why you didn't do it then when it was open.
I think maybe it was, I guess it was me not knowing. I didn't realize that we didn't have any more applicants. I thought we were through the process. I guess I missed that part, or on if it was sent out that said that we hadn't have applicants or only had Youth Counselor Nog apply. So my thought was that we had a good outreach and we were having a good response. And so I wasn't aware that we didn't have any anyone. So that's where, looking at another way, another source of looking at it as well. So.
All right, Youth Counselor Nog, do you want to share before we go to other counselors?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm allowed to share, but I personally reached out to a lot of people too, and they said they would apply, and I don't know what happened on my end. I guess I really did try to get other people to apply, and I didn't actually officially submit the application until 5 minutes before it closed to make sure that my application didn't sound good. But yeah, sorry about that.
I don't think you need to apologize, Youth Counselor Nog, at all. Council President Lube or Counselor Newton, do you have thoughts on this before we get into any kind of a motion? Council President Lube?
Yeah, I think Youth Counselor Nog has done an incredible job. And to be fair, I was part of the interview panel where we held an interview for the youth counselor for this upcoming year. And we had robust discussion. She's excited to continue in the role. I don't want to downplay that. I think it would be great for someone else to have the opportunity, but knowing how much outreach everyone did, there just isn't necessarily the interest. And we have a candidate who's interested and effective and represents, a lot of the youth ideas from a lot of the discussions I have had with other youth. Other high schoolers. They think she's doing a great job. And quite frankly, I'm actually kind of excited to see what she can do without having 6 months of getting comfortable with the process, which it can take to get comfortable and to get up to speed. And so while I understand certainly encouraging and wanting the position filled by a different individual, given all of the robust outreach we had and that it needs to be filled July 1st, I will move forward, and I'm in support of reappointing Youth Counselor Nog.
Counselor Newton?
Yeah, I am in support of moving forward. I know that the Youth Advisory Council, I believe Mr. Wyatt and I both brought it up to that group. I know the last time I met with that group, they were aware that Ms. Nog was going to be considered. She's also going to be the TYAC chair, but yeah, they were aware of that and enthused. So, I think we might, and she's eligible, she can serve another term. So I think we might want to look, we did a lot of outreach. Maybe, I'm not sure how deliberate we were with the Youth Advisory Council, but they did know about it. We mentioned, Mr. Wyatt and I each mentioned it at least once. So, and I think since Counselor Nog has done a great job and she is eligible, I don't see a reason to delay the appointment. Thank you.
All right, and for making sure that Counselor Shaw's perspective is included, her comments were that this needs to be open to other youth in our community to have the same experience and opportunity that Youth Counselor Nog has had. Thus, we need to go back out and actively advocate for applications. This is an amazing opportunity for other youth, and it should be open to other youth for experience and not a second year to the same individual. This is an equity issue. Despite the process allowing a second term, there should be active communication for recruitment that includes notifying counselors and for us to actively recruit among constituents. I would respond again that very similarly that there was lots of robust feedback and communication to the entire community. But I want to share that because she requested that it be shared, so I am doing so. Counselor Newton?
Yeah, really quick. I guess some of the youth that I spoke with, just a handful, they're pretty burned out. they're just re-navigating, being back fully, having lives, and not this hybrid Zoom kind of thing, and kind of exhausted. So I think, maybe next year we won't have youth in the same position they're in at the end of this school year, because that's the sense I got. They're pretty exhausted, and maybe it just was the wrong time. So.
Yeah, I think that's kind of broad throughout the community among almost every member of the youth that I interact with. And I'm just appreciative that Youth Counselor Nog is both willing to continue giving us her time and is able to navigate all of that in a way that, participating in this is not completely overwhelming. And so with that said, is there a motion? Council President Lube.
I move to appoint Oishiki Nog as the youth counselor position.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, please conduct a roll call vote.
Mayor Snyder,
Yes.
Councilor Goodhouse,
Yes.
Councilor Newton,
Yes.
Council President Lube,
Yes.
All right, motion
Counselor
stop. I'm sorry. Forgot we're calling the non-vote, but okay. Thank you, Deputy Recorder. So that motion carries unanimously with those present. Youth Counselor Nog, congratulations. Look forward to your service for the upcoming year. And with that, we'll move on to an update from Metro Councilor Rosenthal. City Manager Reimer, you're going to introduce.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. It is our privilege to introduce our Metro Councilor Garrett Rosenthal and Eduardo Ramos, who is here with us today to provide their update and answer any questions you may have about Metro and the services that we partner on. So with that, I'll turn over to Mr. Rosenthal.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Steve, and everybody else. And first, I'll apologize for stealing Eduardo away from Tigard, because he's been of great service and is a great help in this position. He knows Tigard and really helps in this area, so I really appreciate that. I appreciate the time. I will try and be fairly brief, but I think there's a lot, and Eduardo's going to be running our slideshow, so he can put that on. This is really an update of where we are with a whole bunch of projects that are of critical importance for the region. And I'm having trouble getting my bar off of the bottom here so that I can see the slides. Let's see, I have to get this on full screen somehow. Oh, well, I'll wing it. It's all right. So this is a regional action update. And it's for the basically spring and summer 2022. Next slide. We just acknowledge that we know that the problems are real, they're region-wide, but our progress is also real. And I hope that that's one of the things that you'll get from this. I also want to say that, I appreciate more, I will learn a lot if you have questions and criticisms particularly, so don't be shy about that. I'll probably learn more than you will if that's the case. Next slide, please. We're going to start out with basically homeless services, supportive services. And I have to mention, remember that this is a complex process. You have people who are homeless for short terms who need some initial assistance to get back. You have people who are chronically homeless who need to be put maybe in shelters first and then provide a whole bunch of supportive services. And then you have people who are in danger of being homeless, people who have limited income and are maybe in rent-controlled areas. So there's a bunch of different categories that we have to reach out to. So far, we've placed 748 households, placed or stabilized in regionally funded permanent housing, 2,566. I think these are very recent. I mean, obviously they're changing and improving, and 665 new regionally funded shelter beds. Now, one of the big things there is some of these are seasonal shelter beds, and some of them are year-round shelter beds. And these These are not an end all, but they're a step up, and they're something that then you can focus, you can get somebody into a shelter bed, and then you can get to talk to them easier and get them access to services. Prior to this year, I don't believe Washington County had any permanent shelter beds, and I now think there's several hundred. I think it's about 200, and it's above the goal that was originally set. So that's good. There's still a lot more to be done. There's still a lot more people out there that we need to serve. Next slide. On the housing bond, now there's where we're making progress again. As you know, it takes a little bit of a while to put together the packages and to build these housing bonds. We have about 217 affordable units open. I don't mean 217 apartment buildings, 217 units. We have 2,962 more in design. We originally had planned with the bond issue for about 3,900, but we're actually at about 85% of the goal, having spent only 60% of the funding. In the long run, we figure 12,000 people will have affordable homes from the Metro bond alone. Now, I go to the next slide. I forget exactly what the next slide shows. One of the things I want to highlight is what's going on and this is a good one for that. I want to highlight what's going on in Tigard and in the surrounding areas. Of course, there's 3 areas in Tigard. One is the senior center downtown. Another one that they're going to have the grand opening tomorrow, which I will be there. That's the Viewcrest. And then there's also there was a groundbreaking at the, I guess, a terrace place, which is on Greenberg Road across from Washington Square. So those are 3 in Tigard. Tigard is to be commended for moving forward much more quickly than a lot of jurisdictions. There are other ones. There's just recently one opened I believe in Gladstone, that they had a groundbreaking. And there's another one just on your border that's called a Wish Camp, that's going to be right in the corner of Shoals Ferry and Roy Rogers Road. It's in Beaverton, but it's really close to the area. So we're making progress in that regard. This map shows you approximately, it's probably a little out of date. There's probably more that are, well, obviously the Vista Terrace over in the Triangle is going to be officially open as of tomorrow. So that'll require an update. Next slide, please. One of the things that, as you know, and we really started getting the funding rolling in, is through the supportive housing projects. That was the ballot measure that established the tax on higher earners and certain businesses that make. It was a marginal tax on excess. I wouldn't call them excess earnings, but on higher level earnings. This took a while to ramp up. As you know, we all have a shortage of. Everybody seems to have a shortage finding employees, and that was also the case. We need more outreach staff, more people who are going to do addiction recovery, more people who are going to do job counseling and mental health associations. We also have greater regional coordination. It took a while to make sure that the data collection, and that's not a trivial thing. The data collection on the part of all 3 counties is the same. So we had to have a fairly complex intergovernmental agreement that all the 3, and now we have set up a tri-county advisory committee with representatives to oversee that and make sure it runs smoothly. Metro's main role is to make sure the counties get the money. Washington County gets 33% of the funding. And you'll notice there's the helpline to call, the 211. That isn't, that's just not a number of the slide. Hopefully we don't have 211 slides. So next slide, please. One of the, as you know, one of the areas is keeping the region clean, and that's been a problem. That was particularly a problem during the pandemic. We have what we call RID Patrol, and we really fell way behind during the pandemic because we couldn't send crews out because of safety and health issues. We have beefed back up. We have double the number of RID Patrol crews out there. We're collecting about 3.5 tons a day. We collected over 1,000 tons of trash in the last 12 months, and it's ramped up rather significantly. And we're doing that throughout the region. I personally have noticed some differences, particularly in Portland, some areas that were covered with trash for a long time that have now been cleaned up. There is still, don't get me wrong, there's a lot to do. Cities are doing a lot. ODOT is doing some. The city of Portland is doing some. There's a lot of stuff going on, but it takes time and it takes a lot of work. Next slide, please. This slide shows, and the colors represent, requests, actions, cleanups, and so forth. And I do want to point out one thing. There are not as many dots in the Tigard area. So I really want to encourage you. There is a potentially a tendency, and I've said this all along, for things to be a little Portland centric, because there is a great need there. But we should, if I can do anything to help Tigard request more services from the RID Patrol to get more action out here. I've had this request from your neighboring city, Beaverton, saying, well, we know maybe we're not asking enough, maybe we're not asking loudly enough, but if you need an additional voice to ask loudly to make sure that you get more services from the RID Patrol to clean up waste out here, please don't hesitate to contact me. This is our RID Patrol dashboard. Next slide, please. Transportation ties us together. As you know, there's a lot going on for the future. We're updating the regional transportation plan. We have the reasonable flexible funds. We had a lot of good proposals for RFF, but we don't have as much money as the proposals all do. So we've gone through an elaborate process. Again, from what I've understood, not everybody gets what they want, but people are fairly satisfied that it was a fairly open process and that their desires were heard. So it's projects of regional impact. I want to point out one thing. Everybody thinks that this is going to be just a standard, update on the regional transportation plan. But we have to keep in mind that this might be a little bit more elaborate and a little more impactful than the previous for 4 reasons. First of all, we are talking about a congestion pricing plan, which is going to affect a lot of things, both travel on the main roads as well as potential diversion. We also have changes in technology. We have some potential, we have scooters, we have electric drive bicycles, we have the potential for autonomous vehicles. We have more technology to monitor things, and cars have their own monitors, which didn't used to exist. We also have the pandemic, which has changed work habits. One of the guidance says that 35% of the people will now be working from home, and that has changed the projections, that has changed the dynamics. Different people. It has also changed the disparity, the equity disparity, as I'm sure you're aware of. There are people who have to go to work and they have to commute, and those are usually the lower end jobs. The higher employed people, the higher wage people have a little bit more option. Maybe they only go in 3 times a week. So that's changed a little bit. And the other thing is we now have passed an infrastructure package that provides some funding. It was, I think, 20 years since we passed a major infrastructure package. So we have 4 things to consider that are really changing the landscape. So it isn't quite business as usual, although the process will be similar. Next slide, please. Supporting the economy. It seemed like we missed a slide on waste, and I just wanted to go back to mention one thing on waste. We also, I forgot to mention that we do have a composting program, particularly for food waste throughout the region that's starting this year and going to ramp up next year. All the cities are participating and all the large food waste producers. Metro is going to be refixing their facility in the central location, and then that's going to be sent off to the City of Portland treatment plant for generating power. We also have the investment in infrastructure program, which is going to allocate $2 million region-wide, some of it in our district, not too much, but some of it's going to apply to our district, which is going to impact and be beneficial for recycling, both composting as well as recycling of construction materials. It basically is going to enable private entrepreneurs to expand their facilities or provide new services throughout the region so that we can reduce the amount of waste in the stream. So those are 2 important things that are going on. Now, supporting the economy. Obviously, we want to bring back visitors, and that's why we have reopened at a national model. We've reopened the P5. There's a lot of things going on. As you may know, the expo is up and running. Cirque du Soleil is there for about a month run, which is a really big deal. We're looking to the future. We're supporting regional economic growth. We want to work with people. And one of the big elements there is obviously the NORA floating there in the water is a good indication that the zoo is a big part of this element of supporting growth and just moving with our facilities that are attractors to people coming here. This also goes along with cleaning the place up, providing money. We got money, incidentally, from the state legislature to help clean up the roadways because of the World Athletic event going on in Eugene this summer. So there's additional work going on there. Next slide, please. So So there's a lot going on, and one of the, of course, the key elements is continuing to expand our Parks and Nature program. And we've been doing a lot, and you know, with the Parks and Nature bond, we're spending money in what I think are good ways. There is the local share program, which we have a number of projects that have been submitted. Again, a bit more than you know we have money for. Of course, there's always a lot more needs than there are desires. We have 24 park districts that we're working with. They have submitted various grants. We also have, there's $20 million, I believe, or is it, and maybe it's only 10 for the trails. And there's been a lot of projects submitted for the trail programs. I believe one of the trail projects listed fairly highly is the Tigard to Lake Oswego Trail. I need to know a little bit more about that, but there's stuff going on. We've opened 2 new regional parks, one in Oregon City called Newell Creek Canyon, and the other one at Chehalem Ridge, which is out near Gaston. We've also purchased some fairly important resource lands along Deep Creek and along the Sandy River. These are areas where they're a little wilder, a little less accessible, but they're going to protect water quality, they're going to protect salmon habitat, and they're going to increase the integrity of the lands that we already own in those districts. So there's a lot going in there, that area. We haven't quite finalized the lists on the trails yet. That's still in a final process. It should be done in another month and a half, I think. Next slide, please. Protecting our future. This is a slide showing basically where we've done. These are one of those slides that are very fun to look at, but until you really study it, you can't get all the details. This is some of the projects that we've had, some of the projects we're working on, regional efforts. And you can see I think the main reason for this at this point is we're working throughout the region. We're working through in my district as well as other districts. Some areas need it more than others. Equity is one of the big driving forces. Equity, water quality, habitat protection, accessibility. Those are the big things. As we all know, during the pandemic, the parks were very highly used. People used them because they couldn't, it was one of the few places they could go out and hang out and maybe walk around with friends or take their dog out, et cetera, et cetera. So we're funding connections. Like I said, the trails is a big deal. There's at least 3 trails in my district, District 3, that have the potential for getting funding. We haven't gone through the entire process. And then we're going to have to worry about the future because the current bond issue for parks and maintenance runs out in 23. And so we have to think about what we're going to do and how we're going to continue to support them. And that's probably going to be a proposal at some point for a continuing bond issue, for a continuation of the current levy for parks and nature operation and maintenance. So that's coming up. And that's going to help people regionally. And like I said, we work with the local park districts on things that they're looking for. We have requests from a lot of people. Next slide, please. At any rate, I guess the point I want to point out, and the reason for showing those scattergram slides, is that we're trying to work regionally. We realize that everybody is different. Every city has its own unique needs, its own character, its own demographics, its own industry, its own economy, its own business needs. But we also believe that we have a region that we need to serve as a group, and so we're trying to do that. And some of our programs, we have nature education programs that tie people in and integrate them into nature as well as with each other. So we're trying to do things regionally. We don't always get things right. So like I said, any criticism or any complaints are heeded because we want to make sure that everybody feels they're heard, every city, and every jurisdiction is heard, and that they get at least their voice in. They may not always rise to the top, but we're going to put them on the list, and we're going to try and do what we can with the monies that we have and try and make sure it's a transparent process. So we want to create a region that works for everybody. With that, I think the last slide just gives the contact points. I can provide additional contacts for example, on the composting issue with our solid waste people, if you have particular questions, or you probably know more about some of the contacts on the housing and the supportive services, but contact me through either directly or through my policy advisor, Eduardo. And any questions? Thanks for the time.
Well, thank you, Councilor Rosenthal. Always informative, and I know that you want to treat every jurisdiction fairly and everything, but Tigard is the best, right? Just need to clarify that.
Oh, absolutely. I certainly agree with that.
All right, Councillor Newton, you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, just really quick. Thanks for the very thorough information. It occurs to me, I don't know that much about the RID patrol program, and I'm wondering if you or Mr. Ramos can send information to our communications team so that we can, I get the Metro newspaper, but perhaps some direct communication to our communications team to educate our folks a little bit more about what the RID patrol program is, what it does, and maybe there's some appropriate action that could or would be taken if we had some direct communication. Other than that, I don't have any questions. Thanks.
I appreciate that comment. We'll do that. One thing I just want to remind people, the RID patrol doesn't clean up camps when people are inhabiting the camps. We don't do that for a lot of security reasons, but yeah, my worry has been that the information isn't quite out there as well in, say, in the cities in my district as it should be. So we will work to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's important, to your point, for folks to know what the RID patrol is and what it can do, so
Right.
There's not confusion. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, other comments or questions, Council President Lube?
I just wanted to thank you for your thorough presentation. It's helpful to hear all of everything that's going on and everything that is affecting Tigard through the Metro District. And I wanted to compliment Mr. Ramos on his Tigard pin.
Yeah, he knows where it's at. All right, other comments or questions? Otherwise, we are definitely behind on our agenda, so I want to acknowledge that as well. Thank you both for being here, and great to have the updates.
And I look forward to next time.
All right, with that, we'll move on to item number 8 on the agenda, which is a municipal court update. Judge Oberdorfer.
Good evening, everybody. Can folks hear me okay?
We can.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. This is the 23rd annual review of the Tigard Municipal Court and my second opportunity to present this. I apologize for getting my memorandum in to the city recorder late. I hope that you all got that in your 2 o'clock email. I'm going to run through that and try to get you a little bit back on track. The court's goals haven't changed much in the last year. We still strive to provide an impartial and local forum for resolution of relatively minor cases in a fair, professional, equitable, and efficient manner. We have some goals coming up for the next year. We hope to increase community engagement. I had the opportunity to speak with folks at Leadership Tigard. It was a really wonderful experience. We had one of our clerks organized that last day, and now the rest of our clerks are anxiously awaiting their opportunity to participate in the program. Wonderful reviews from everybody there. We also hope to provide some court-specific DEI training over the next year. That was one of the questions presented to me when I participated in a meeting of the Public Safety Advisory Board. And so that is something that I would absolutely like to explore. I would also like to explore alternative sanctions to fines for our most vulnerable defendants. There's lots of ideas on how that would happen. There is an Oregon statute coming through that would allow for discharge of fines completely for folks that do not have an ability to pay. We are hoping to explore some way for folks who meet that criteria to give back to the community in some way, perhaps through a partnership with Washington County, and asking folks to do that through a 501c3 rather than through the city for various reasons would be our jumping off point to explore that. And of course, we hope to continue to promote learning and leadership among our current teammates. Some highlights this year, we have an absolutely wonderful group of folks working here now. Really hardworking people that are dedicated to the city's community promise for excellence in customer service. We have 3 Spanish-speaking clerks now here 40 hours a week who are able to provide quick on-the-spot interpreter services and provide community service for folks that come in, Spanish-speaking folks that come in. We have reviewed our standard operating procedures and developed some new step-by-step procedures that have helped us clear several backlogs created by COVID-19 closures and open positions. We have begun cross-training all of the clerks so everybody knows how to provide, how to do all of the basic tasks here. That helps us ensure that things get done timely and that work is spread equitably among the folks that work here. Everybody kind of knows what everybody else is doing. We also added open court twice a week. And that is a time for folks that are not on the docket that have questions about their cases or payment plans or something that they would like to speak with a judge about can just show up. That is on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of every month from 10:30 until noon, or until I have seen everybody that checks in before noon. We have had that 3 times now. The first time about 20 people showed up, second time about 40 people showed up, third time about 50 people showed up. So that has given us a real opportunity to make some headway into the large backlogs that we created, and really just to provide that customer service and to make sure that people have an opportunity to be heard. I'm very excited about that moving forward, and we may end up adding another day or starting that a little earlier. Caseload wise, a little wonky because we're not doing the fiscal year here. I pulled reports from June 1st, 2021 through May 31st, 2022. In that time period, there were 24,980 total cases filed. Of those, 2,814 were still pending resolution. So case filings are down 1,546 from the year before. Of that total 24,980 cases filed, 15,067 were photo speeding tickets, and about 97% of those, 14,639, alleged speeding between 11 and 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. And since that's photo tickets start going out. Legally, they can go out at 11 miles an hour over the speed limit. My understanding is that the Tigard Police Department has begun issuing those at 13 miles an hour over the speed limit. So it's really between 13 and 20 miles an hour that we're looking at through those speeding tickets. 403 of them alleged 21 to 30 miles an hour over the limit. 25 photo citations were for 31 miles an hour over the limit. Those photo tickets, again, are all coming off of Highway 99, where the speed limit is 35 miles an hour. So that is people going 66 miles an hour on Hall Boulevard, past Fred Meyer, and just right down that slope there. Citations from in-person stops were down, or excuse me, were slightly up from last year, with a total of 2,824, and 5,094 photo cases alleged failure to obey a traffic control device, which in non-legalese is running a red light when it comes to photo tickets. We are still running the traffic safety diversion program. That is a way for folks that have good driving history in the last 5 years and don't have commercial driver's licenses can get their cases dismissed if they agree to do an online class and pay a fee to the court within 120 days. Approximately 2,222 people signed up for that program between June 1st, 21 and May 31st of this year. And 95% completed their obligations and had their case dismissed. 25 defendants took advantage of the class that discharges the fine for cell phone use. The technical name of that violation is unlawful use of a mobile electronic device, is how you'd see it written down. Cell phone ticket is what we call it colloquially. It is a $265 fine, or folks can take about a 3-hour class that costs about $30. 25 defendants took advantage of that. As far as setbacks, we are still running below our allocated FTE. I am still acting as the court supervisor. We just closed listings on clerk positions on the 12th of this month, and we hope to have interviews mid next month. I believe we had 21 applicants for that position. We may be able to hire 2 folks out of that. We began, I think last time I spoke to y'all, we had close to 8,900 cases, photo cases in which folks had failed to appear, that we were beginning to default those folks, send letters out to them, try to get some action on those. That was a huge backlog for us, and I submitted my report noting that that number was down to 2,238. I ran that report again at 4:15 this afternoon, and that number was down to 879. So we have cleared over 8,000 cases in backlog since last I spoke with y'all a few months ago. And as for our team member development, as I said, we've got a really wonderful team now. We are beginning to really gel as a group. We had some really turbulent times. We are here every day, Monday through Thursday, 40 hours a week. We are frontline workers here, and it has been hard for the clerks, and we have had our share of troubles, but we're really gelling now. And we had some team building sessions. Somebody came in and we did disc assessments and really got to know each other a little bit better. Folks really work well together. They respect one another now. They believe the best about each other. They look for good intent with each other and with the folks that we come in contact with, whether they are angry and upset with us. They are really working hard to explain the process. And I'm just so proud of everybody that works here with me. In the last year, I was elected to the board of the Oregon Municipal Judges Association. I have joined the Education Committee, and I'm looking forward to planning the next fall conference with them. I attended the spring conference with that same group in April. 2 of our clerks attended the Oregon Association for Court Administrators. There's a typo under 7 line D of yours. I left out Association for Court Administrators. So that's that group that they joined. One of our clerks, Marie Nguyen, was the Employee of the Month in March 2022. And as I mentioned, Holly Fenton just completed or just finished her organizing day of the Leadership Tigard program. She's a 2021 graduate, and folks are looking forward to their opportunity to attend that program. I will skip all of the continuing legal education that I did. I don't think that, but I am happy to answer any questions about that or anything else.
Thank you, Judge. Appreciate the report out. Council, any questions or comments? I think that was pretty thorough. Councilor Newton?
Yeah, really quick. Thank you very much. I appreciate you clarifying the backlog because I had a question about that. I just wanted to comment for those of you that may not know, Judge Oberdorfer and former Judge O'Brien did 2 meeting presentation before the Public Safety Advisory Board. There was a request for them to do that very thorough presentation, and council will see, as the judge spoke to, that the based on that presentation, the Public Safety Advisory Board's recommendations will include one to look at alternative sanctions, and the judge is already on that. So we talked about that there, and then they were really pleased at the judge being so receptive to the additional DEI training for court staff. So I just wanted to point that out. It was very good training. The group got a lot out of it, and it was very thorough for you and Judge O'Brien, former Judge O'Brien, to put that presentation together. So much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. I got a lot out of those meetings as well. I think Judge O'Brien also got a lot out of it. I don't like to speak for him, but I speak to him a lot, and I know it has been a valuable experience for him. All of these meetings are really great. I've enjoyed listening to y'all here today. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Judge.
All right.
All right, we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, item number 9, board member term alignment. And Senior Management Analyst Hendricks, you're going to be presenting initially.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Snyder and Council. It's good to see you. My name is Nicole Hendricks, and I'm the Senior Management Analyst in the City Manager's Office here at Tigard. I'm here tonight as part of a continued effort to improve some of Tigard's board and committee processes. More specifically, tonight we're going to work on aligning our board and committee member term expiration dates so that they all end in December. So you may recall around this time last year, we began this effort with the extension of some of the Park and Recreation Advisory Board terms. So the actions tonight are a continuation of that effort. Currently, Park and Recreation Board, Prabh, and the Library Board member terms end in June as compared to all of the other Tigard board and committee terms, which end in December. So by aligning our term end dates, we're hoping that we can just provide clear communication to our community on the timeline for when we recruit members for our boards and committees. And a piece of feedback that we heard from council last year was that historically, one of the difficulties with having like terms all end at the same time was the large time commitment for conducting all of the interviews. And so we are keeping that in mind as we enter into this new year. And even though we are aligning our terms, we're also going to have team liaisons send out calendar holds for you all very early on in advance. And we're kind of brainstorming different ways we can format the interviews to maybe consolidate a little bit more. So that's something that we heard and we hope to improve for this year. And then, so to implement this term alignment change is we would ask for you to consider the following actions, which I'll just briefly break down on the following slides. So the first action would be for you to consider an ordinance to repeal the Tigard Municipal Code, the chapter that relates to Park and Recreation Advisory Board. So that would remove that chapter entirely and allow for the Prabh, the Park and Recreation Advisory Board bylaws, to guide them instead. So the ordinance would also include repealing sections of the code relating to the library board. Similar to parks, this would have them allow their bylaws to cover kind of that information instead. And then lastly, since we have this opportunity to make some updates, we're also recommending to amend the section on library fees because there's the current language spoke about a fee structure that only mentioned residing in City of Tigard, but there's an updated structure where anyone who resides or has a business within Washington County aren't required to pay a fee anymore. So we just wanted to update that with the correct information and changes there. So that's for the ordinance. And then if that ordinance is approved, then we'll ask for 2 separate resolutions to amend the bylaws of Prabh and library so that what we removed from the ordinance is included in the bylaws and we don't have any gaps. So we'll just, and that way we ensure that the term end dates are also updated to December. And then I forgot to mention, but all of the ordinance changes we included in the agenda item packet. So the ordinance attachment has Exhibit A, which shows the red line changes, and then Exhibit B, which shows the clean version with the amendments. So that's for Prabh. We have one resolution to update the bylaws. Same thing for library board. I did want to note they're, again, just having this opportunity to update their bylaws. They did want to make some just kind of cleaning up revisions for some terminology. So for example, their bylaws like use chairperson a lot, and they just wanted to use chair. So they just updated some of that terminology. And similar to the ordinance, we have the red line version and the clean version in your packet. And then the last two resolutions, but definitely not least, are the extending the terms of our Prabh and library members. So for Prabh, we have Ellen and Scott as voting members, and that will extend them through the end of December. And then for library board, we have Helen, and they are not present tonight, but I know they are very interested in extending their terms. And I'll just wrap up by thanking our city attorney, Shelby Rahala. She was really helpful in just ensuring we were following all the correct steps and navigating all these moving kind of components. And also Rick Bruin, who's our team liaison for Prabh, and Margaret Ray, who's supporting the library board. They did a lot of work on the bylaws, so I just really appreciate that. And they're also keeping their boards informed, so they know what's going on. And I guess with that, I'll open it up for any questions or action.
So Nicole, I just want to make maybe this is more of a reality check, going back to the concerns that we as council members had about the timing and the interviews. And I guess I just want to, be more concrete about that. I guess this mostly won't be affecting me, but it's affected me for the last decade. So yeah. I'm going to speak about it. It is unreasonable for the city, and I've been involved in this long enough to have, to be honest, just city staff in different departments not communicating with each other about this. But when I make this comment, it's not just about the coordination, but it is unreasonable to expect a member of the city council to spend more than one evening a week, because it's usually hours and hours long, doing this in addition to a city council evening. So we have meetings, city council meetings almost every week. And I'm bringing this up because you were indicating that there's going to be a lot of pre-planning done and calendar holds put on. What's not going to be reasonable, and what will absolutely not work for the members of this city council or any future city councils, is to have the staff teams thinking that, oh, well, we can do Monday night, we can do Wednesday night, we can do Thursday night, and all the same people being expected to be there in the same week, especially during the holidays. I mean, it's sort of a recipe for disaster from my perspective. So I think we've generally gone along with this and supported it. But, please, I hope all the staff team that's hearing this, and as we're going through this, is thoughtfully thinking about that, because it's just not realistic. And I guess I want to check with, is any members of the city council disagree with me? Certainly speak up. Councilor Newton?
I don't disagree at all. And having sat at through that from the staff perspective to try to get people scheduled when they also have other council commitments. And for example, we had for CCE last time, or maybe it was the time before, there were 3 separate nights. We had so many candidates. So it's the idea that the mayor brought up, that to try to get staff scheduled and the applicants scheduled and council scheduled. From the staff side, when I was there, it's difficult to get people scheduled. So I do have a concern about that. It's not that there's a night that the staff has available. It's you've got counselors and, they might not have, every night of the week available. So I'm very concerned, starting in October and then getting into November when you get holidays. It's difficult. It's going to be difficult. So I do have that same concern. I had another question really quick. I guess I'm wondering historically why Prabh and the library board were in the code and the other boards and committees were not. I'm just my little history thing kicks in, and I just wonder if staff research to figure out, is it just why that was done? I couldn't think of anything, but I wanted to know if we checked historically to see why they were in the code and the others were not. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for indulging my question.
Nicole, you got anything on that?
No, I haven't heard the reason why, but I am curious and can definitely follow up with maybe some folks who might have more of that historical knowledge. I'm sure there's some team members in the city who can answer that. So thank you for asking, and I'll follow up.
Councilor Goodhouse?
I was just going to reiterate. I think, Mayor, you kind of touched on it already, but just the really for the council to really know who's applying for other boards and commissions, really kind of getting, like you said, staff talking to each other, because there's too many times where someone's applying for one, but the staff hasn't talked, or we know, or we're getting the information ahead of time too. As you mentioned, you have a packed night, and you're kind of getting the information that day, and staff maybe sometimes forgets that we have a day job and we have to go through all the information and look at it. So having that in advance, but also for applicants to know that they can really apply for one, because that's always kind of that surprise too, where they want more than one and they have to kind of pick which one they want. So,
well, they can apply for more than one. They're not going to get appointed to more than one.
Yeah.
Council President Lube.
Well, I was going to piggyback off of that because we haven't communicated before. We've had community members who actually have been appointed to more than one. So I'd like to advocate and make sure, because we have a lot of interested community members, that I want to make sure we don't have anyone serving on multiple committees, because I'd like to have that opportunity, and just given the amount of interviews we've had. And I hope we start for interviews, quite frankly, in October, because the last round of interviews were absolutely brutal on me. And so I'm really hoping we don't replicate that again, because I want to give everyone my full focus and my full time, and it's really, really hard to do multiple hours into it, several days in a row into it.
City Manager Reimer, I guess I want to call you specifically in here and make sure that the full breadth and scope of this feedback is registering with the staff team, and you can make sure the whole leadership team. I mean, Nicole is the one presenting here, and I know she's had a lot to do with the process and everything else, but it seems like there's some significant communication that needs to happen, and perhaps some more detailed planning work that the whole leadership team and the staff need to do around this.
Yeah, we'll have a coordinated effort, and in fact, we've had some conversations on this about these comments that were made previously, making sure that we can balance out the interview process. So absolutely.
All right, and then the way I'd like to handle all of the ordinances and resolutions is to discuss any concerns or comments with any of them now, not discuss in between each one. I think they're all mostly, housekeeping, making the changes to the terms, etc. And then I would also like, if the council is willing to indulge, I'd like one person to agree to make the motions and another to agree to second them, so that we can be a little more organized and timely here, unless someone feels like that's not appropriate, but it seems appropriate to me.
Mr. Mayor, I think that sounds like a good plan. My only hesitation is if there's a reason we shouldn't be removing the park board or the library board from the code, and you find that out, Nicole, what will we do?
So I did ask Shelby if it was okay that we removed. So we got approval from our city attorney that we don't need that language in the code.
Okay.
Does that make you comfortable, Councilor Newton?
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion on any of the ordinances and resolutions in this section? And I'm referring to board member term alignment, section 9 of the agenda, since there's so many of them. Okay, who would like to raise their hand and be the mover, and who would like to volunteer to be the mover? Okay, Council President Lube's the mover. Who's going to be the seconder?
I can.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I move to approve ordinance number 22-07.
I second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, please read the number and title of the ordinance.
Ordinance number 22-07, an ordinance repealing Tigard Municipal Code, Chapter 2.12, Park and Recreation Advisory Board, and repealing sections 2.2.36.030, Library Board terms, and 2.36.040, Library Board responsibilities, and amending Section 2.36.060, library fees.
And City Recorder, roll call vote starting with Youth Councilor Nog for an advisory vote.
Youth Councilor Nog,
Yes.
Mayor Snyder,
Yes.
Councilor Goodhouse,
Yes.
Councilor Newton,
Yes.
Council President Lube,
Yes.
Councilor Shaw. Thank you.
All right, ordinance number 22-07 is adopted unanimously by those present. Is there a motion on resolution 22-18?
I move to approve resolution number 22-18.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, read the number and title of the resolution.
Resolution number 22-18, a resolution of the City Council amending the bylaws of the Park and Recreation Advisory Board.
And City Recorder, roll call vote starting with Youth Councilor Nog.
Youth Councilor Nog,
Yes.
Mayor Snyder,
Yes.
Councilor Goodhouse,
Yes.
Councilor Newton,
Yes.
Council President Lube,
Yes.
Councilor Shaw. Thank you.
All right, resolution 22-18 is adopted unanimously by those present. Motion on resolution 22-19.
I move to approve resolution number 22-19.
I second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, read the number and title of the resolution.
Resolution number 22-19, a resolution of the City Council amending the bylaws of the Tigard Public Library Board.
And a roll call vote starting with Youth Councilor Nog.
Youth Councilor Nog,
Yes.
Mayor Snyder,
Yes.
Councilor Goodhouse,
Yes.
Councilor Newton,
Yes.
Council President Lube,
Yes.
Councilor Shaw. Thank you.
All right, resolution 22-19 is adopted unanimously by those present. Move on to resolution 22-20.
I move to approve resolution number 22-20.
I second that.
City Recorder, read the number and title of the resolution.
Resolution number 22-20, a resolution to extend the terms of Ellen Seminara and Scott Winkles as voting members of the Park and Recreation Advisory Board.
And a roll call vote starting with Youth Councilor Nog.
Youth Councilor Nog,
Yes.
Mayor Snyder,
Yes.
Councilor Goodhouse,
Yes.
Councilor Newton,
Yes.
Council President Lube,
Yes.
Councilor Shaw. Thank you.
All right, resolution 22-20 is adopted unanimously by those present. Thank you. All right, and then resolution 22-21.
I move to approve resolution number 22-21.
I second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, read the number and title of the resolution, please.
Resolution number 22-21, a resolution to extend the term of Helen Allen as an alternate member of the Tigard Public Library Board.
And a roll call vote starting with Youth Councilor Nog.
Youth Councilor Nog,
Yes.
Mayor Snyder,
Yes.
Councilor Goodhouse,
Yes.
Councilor Newton,
Yes.
Council President Lube,
Yes.
Councilor Shaw. Thank you.
All right, resolution number 22-21 is adopted unanimously by those present. Thank you staff for all the work putting that together. I know that was a huge lift, so thank you to everyone in the city that worked on that. And we'll be cautiously optimistic. I'll be curious to hear how it goes. All right, we're going to move on to item number 10 on the agenda, which is a public hearing and adoption of solid waste fees. I'm going to open the public hearing. Anyone that wishes to testify may do so by phoning in and calling now to get in the queue. The number to call would be 503-966-4101. Again, 503-966-4101. And if you want to provide testimony, you should call in now. Finance Director Trimp, staff report, please.
Good evening, Mayor Snyder, members of the council, Cindy Trimp. We have 3 items for your consideration related to the city's waste management services. The first is to increase glass collection services from once a month to twice a month with no additional charge. The providers have notified us that they'll be able to implement this effective September 1st of this year. The second item for consideration is to modify the current rate schedule that was adopted during the fiscal year 23 budget cycle. The current approved rates have an inflationary increase. However, this resolution will keep the rates the same as they are today with no increase. If adopted, these rates would be effective January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. And the third item is a 35-cent per month fee increase to add food waste disposal services to the yard debris pickup. This is currently an every other week service, and if adopted, will be effective January 1st, 2023. That's everything for this resolution, and please let us know if you have any questions. Thank you, Mayor Snyder and council members.
And that would stay at every other week service, correct?
Correct. That's what it is right now.
Okay, yeah. So it's just adding food waste to the frequency that's currently there.
That's right.
Okay. Let's see, we are in the middle of a public hearing, so let me make sure we follow the process. Let's see, public testimony. Deputy Recorder Raimundo, we did not have any written comments on this, correct?
That's correct, Mayor.
Mr. Nullup, are there any callers in the queue?
Mr. Mayor, no callers in the queue.
All right, no response to testimony then. I will close the public hearing. And let's move on to council consideration of resolution 22-22. And I will just share Councilor Shaw's narrative feedback. She's supportive of the first 2 items, and on the third, she wanted just clarification on the yard debris pickup with proposed food waste being collected effective 1/1/2023. That was a question, and I think the answer is it's every 2 weeks. I just asked that, I think, and got clarification. She's concerned with additional rats, pests, etc., with food waste, with yard debris. She thinks the chart was very confusing. She thinks additional increase in costs in red was based on my question, but not sure. I think that's true because that's the proposal, right? To move food waste to every other week, or to include it, but still pick it up every other week, which was not something modeled out. Seems like it's pretty inexpensive too, though, ultimately, right? You said 35 cents is the change?
Correct. 35 cents.
Seems
Per
like
month.
seems like a pretty good trade-off. She's supportive of it if it's at least every 2 weeks. But she thinks it still needs to be weekly in the summer and fall months. I think that's her general feedback. Okay. So with that, let's see. Council consideration of resolution 22-22. Who's got questions or comments? Or, I mean, I know we deliberated this all last week, so I don't know if has anyone had any further thoughts or things that they want to re-deliberate or questions that have come up? Councillor Newton?
I think Finance Director Trimp did a good job explaining what the changes are, so the public that is listening understands what the changes are. I just hope that we do some robust communication to folks. Last time, there was just a kind of a note in my garbage bill or my, from the waste hauler, and I think it would be good for the city to do a little bit more to give people a heads up about the changes. So that would be my only comment, but I think it's really clear. Thank you.
Okay. Council President Lube, Youth Councilor Nog, Councilor Goodhouse, anything? Or a motion then? Council President Lube?
I will just say I'm excited for glass to go every 2 weeks because I'm pretty sure I just missed glass week this month on a personal level. Just I noticed too late that my neighbors had their bins up. So I will personally benefit from this change. With that said, I move to approve resolution 22-22.
Councilor Newton?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, please read the number and title of the resolution.
Resolution number 22-22, a resolution amending the citywide fees and charges schedule adopted under resolution number 22-12.
All right, and City Recorder, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Snyder?
Yes.
Councilor Goodhouse?
Yes.
Councilor Newton?
Yes.
Council President Lube?
Yes.
Councilor Shaw? Thank you.
All right, resolution 22-22 passes unanimously with those present, and I'm excited for those changes in our community. All right, we have no non-agenda items. City Manager Reimer, do you have an administrative report?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor and councilors. All good news tonight. A lot of exciting things happening in our community. I want to start by talking about our summer meals program, and huge thank you to our library team for stepping forward when there's changes with the ability to serve food, partnering with TTSD. Our library stepped up, and so we started the program last week, and so we are serving meals at the library. My understanding, it's the only site that's partnering with TTSD in Tigard, and so that's a great thing. And to date, we've already served about 140 meals, and so lunches for kids 0 to 18 years old. So it's every Monday through Friday from 12 to 12:30 in our library courtyard. So once again, just a huge thank you to our library teammates as well as Tigard Tualatin School District for recognizing this need and really acting extremely quickly to make sure that this was in place. And so the service that's vital for our community, and once again, a big thanks. We've talked about our reading program. So we now have over 1,000 kids registered and 350 adults. So people can register through July 31st and then have to read or complete the challenge by the end of August of this year. So keep the registrations coming and the reading happening during the summer months. Another great thing, you may recall in November of last year, you approved a contract with Proud Ground. And I've learned that we have Proud Ground has its first contract to purchase an affordable homeownership unit in Tigard. It's near St. Anthony's Church. And what's great is that this will now be will remain affordable into perpetuity. And so now you can see how this investment the council's making, partnering with other organizations like Proud Ground, where you see that value happen for not only today's residents, but those that will be coming afterwards. So thanks to the council for approving that program last November, and thanks to Proud Ground and our team for actively working on this to start seeing the results of that program. So, and that does not conclude my remarks. Just a quick reminder that, knock on wood, this is our last remote council meeting. As myself and the city attorney have been talking with you the last few months. Our next meeting is planned for July 19th. So the first thing is we don't have a meeting next week or the following. And then as of right now, we're looking at the workshop setting on Thursday the 19th, where we'd all be in person. There's a chance that this could evolve to a business meeting because there's a few items that we're learning about that might need council attention. And so I'll update you on that as we come out of the 4th of July. And then it's the 9th and 23rd of August, we would have business meetings that will be in the hybrid format. Ideally it was in person, but if not, it's our chance to test the system as we really start moving forward after September. So with that, that does now conclude my remarks, and I was happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, any questions or comments? All right, thank you, City Manager Reimer. And is there a motion for adjournment? Council President Loop?
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Snyder,
Yes.
Councilor Goodhouse,
Yes.
Councilor Newton,
Yes.
Council President Lib,
Yes.
Councilor Shaw. Thank you.
All right, we are adjourned. Good night, Tigard.
Night.